Jesus, cleanse us. Oh Lord, it's you we see. Cause your face to shine upon us again. Oh, cause your face to shine upon us again. That's what this is about. It's about, I'm going to be all over the place, so reel me in when I'm supposed to. I was at a women's conference last weekend and had the privilege of sharing in song, and it was kind of atypical. It was like, it was a style of engagement and denominationalness, if I can say that. But I was familiar with it, but I would say in a very arrogant kind of way, I had moved past it. And so this is my style of worship. Yeah, that was back in the day. And I just felt the Spirit of the Lord say, daughter, I need you to stretch. And he began showing me over this weekend, which, by the way, was held at the Billy Graham Training Institute in Asheville, North Carolina. If you want a divinely ordained place to go either just for a personal retreat or with a group, it was just amazing. But I kept thinking over the 2 days about stretching. And sometimes we have to stretch because things get too familiar. Yeah. And I would dare say, God forbid, that these stories on the news were getting sort of like, okay, here they go. Yeah, wow, that's awful. Isn't that terrible? It's familiar. Some of us have to stretch because it's unfamiliar. I am really not comfortable talking to these people or being around them, and I don't understand. And I'm talking to you, body of Christ. That's who I'm talking to today. This is about us coming together and reasoning. So are we going to stretch? Angela is heartened because you're here. And I share in her encouragement. But I challenge you, those of us that God has entrusted with a little more pigment than others, I feel a little like shamed on us. I'm like, okay, for real? Are we really the minority in a meeting about Black Lives Matter? Come on, people of God. Come on. So let me just read. I have some stats and some numbers and things that I'll share with you. But let me read this passage that was jumping out at me. And I'm going to read it from the Message translation. It's Isaiah 1, verses 13 through 18. And it says, quit your worship charades. I can't stand your trivial religious games. Monthly conferences, weekly Sabbaths, special meetings. I can't stand one more. This is God talking. Meeting for this, meeting for that. I hate them. You've worn me out. I'm sick of your religion, while you go right on sinning. When you put on your next prayer performance, I'll be looking the other way. No matter how long or how loud or how often you pray, I'll not be listening. And do you know why? Because you've been tearing people to pieces and your hands are bloody. Go home and wash up. Clean up your act. Sweep your lives clean of your evil doings so I don't have to look at them any longer. Say no to wrong. Learn to do good. Work for justice. Help the down and out. Stand up for the homeless. Go to bat for the defenseless. Come. Sit down. Let's argue this out. Come. let us reason together. If white folks think they're tired of talking about race, I'm here to tell you, black and brown folk are really tired of talking about race. I have a colleague that wants me to partner with him on a research grant, and call her my God-given daughter. I have 3 sons, but God has just assigned literally some daughters to me. I don't even call her my goddaughter. She's my God-given daughter in a lovely new relationship. She called me the other day talking about how hard men are and how confusing men are. Okay, we won't have a gender affinity conversation this morning. But she said, he keeps buying me dresses and giving me stuff, and that's his way to express his love for me, and I don't really want stuff. I want, hold my hand and let's walk through the park. Buying clothes is loving her like himself. Walking through the park, even though he might not really want to walk, is loving her as himself. So Judith Palmer was saying, so we find that people just started butting heads around this. I don't want, to walk up the stairs. I prefer the elevator. So why are you making me figure? It let us off the hook relationally. So you have people that were frustrated because they're like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm loving you as I'm doing unto you as I would have others do unto me. And you're all frustrated, and you have other people frustrated because that's not what I want or need or desire. Palmer said the second approach was what she called the right the wrongs approach. And in this approach, she said, there are some very tangible examples in the United States history that demonstrate people being treated wrongly for no reason other than their race or their cultural heritage. And we know them. What are some? Native Americans. You can't even get your brain around what has happened to that people group. Native Americans. What's another?
Asian incarceration.
Japanese internment camps during World War II. One day, you're a law-abiding citizen. The next day, your enemy won and forcefully taken from your home. We did that. In the interest of security, we always have a good reason, right? What's another?
Women's suffragettes.
Yeah, I was thinking my grandmother left to take on her eternal throne 2 years ago at the age of 95. And I was always marveling about the fact that she got to vote for Obama and see the first black president. But then it occurred to me, wait a minute, this is a lady who couldn't even vote for the first half of her life. Yeah. So there is, and then certainly there's the civil rights movements and African Americans. There's on and on and on examples. And Palmer said, so out of that movement and that recognition, because we're Americans, right, so we can fix things, well, let's do this thing called affirmative action and right the wrongs. We're going to fix this and we're going to move past it. Well, again, misapplication of a noble concept. So then you always hear the stories of, my dad was a white man and he was up to be fire chief, but he didn't get the job because they had to hire a minority. Or students at MSU. No, I didn't get admitted because I'm a minority. I got admitted because I was valedictorian of my class. But assumptions. So again, our best laid efforts resulted in tension and tug and pull, and the complete opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. Now she says we're in this stage called valuing diversity. But we don't know how to do that either. We're saying the words, we want it to be good, but we just can't figure it out. Just like the biracial individual in the book of Leviticus and the Israelite. Ruth, really different. The woman at the well, really different. The Samaritans encounter, really, it was all about the inability for us to negotiate difference in an effective way. And the more we battle difference, the more comfortable we get with it. Most of us, if I were to ask you, to think of a time when you were different and how did it make you feel, very few people say, I felt special, I felt unique, I felt one. Most people say I felt out of place, I felt awkward, I felt uncomfortable. And that used to kind of bug me. But I really believe that it is evidence that inherently God has designed our hearts to be in relationship, to connect. And so that heart tug of trying to be like each other gets blocked by the barrier of difference because of the way we have articulated difference in this nation. I talk about this, I battle this, my research is this, my ministry call is this, racial reconciliation, because I just believe one day, because longevity runs in my family, I'm going to be sitting on a porch at 95, should Christ tarry. I feel like as I get older, you start picking up those sayings like your grandma and your grandpa used to say. I get it now. But I want my grandkids sitting at my feet saying, when you were working, Mimi, what did you do? I had to practice a grandmother name because my goddaughter's about ready to deliver any second. So Mimi, I'm trying that on so that y'all were a test group. I want them saying, you had to talk to people about that? They paid you to talk to people about that? I want them to be incredulous. This is generational work. We're a little bit farther because of the generational work that was done, but we've made the mistake of presuming that the work was over. And even when the work is done, the work is never done because vigilance, the enemy is always walking about seeking whom he may devour. And the minute we let our guard down, he's going to get to whispering in your ear. Remember that hurt that you thought you were over? And then sometimes you can just be in your car driving and pass the wrong street and remember, ooh, that was that street we turned on and he said this, or you can see this unique color and get reminded of that loved one who hurt you. He is seeking, always. He's always on the prowl. So we've got to always stay vigilant. I want to read you this statistic. For me, the manifestation of racism is often about health. I'm a public health professional. And anytime you see a statistic that says, black men have more heart disease, black women have more breast cancer, Latino, Native Americans, more smoking, whatever the statistic is, that's a manifestation of racism. It is not about why doesn't she stop feeding her kids French fries. It is not about personal choice. The choices people make are determined by the choices people are given. And our society is not structured for health. It's just not. So this, I want to read this quote. See if I can find it. Okay, my work is infant mortality. So this quote is from a peer-reviewed research journal. It says, less than 5% of the total number of white infants are born dead, and over 25% of Negro infants are born dead. Now, I could take that sentence and replace the word Negro with the word African American, and you could mistake that quote as coming from a current journal article from the Centers for Disease Control or anywhere. This is a quote from the American Journal of Public Health from 1915. And it's a quote by Dr. William Brunner, who was the health officer for Savannah, Georgia at the time. Things are not changing because we're not changing. Things are remaining the same because we are remaining the same. We are in neutral. And just because stuff is passing us by, we think we're in movement. We're not moving. The battles are continuing to rage all around us, and we're just in a standstill. Dr. Brunner, in concluding this article, says, what does this mean? It means these figures place us in a bad light, and that is where we belong. And I would agree. Shame on us. Shame on us that we've allowed the enemy to desensitize us. You know, Benjamin Franklin said, early to bed and early to rise makes a man
wealthy and wise.
Yeah, it's true. Wealth and health go side by side. The wealthier you are in this nation, the healthier you are. And the research now demonstrates that in nations where income inequality is broad, that the health outcomes for everyone is worse. So you may be better off as a wealthy person, but if you're in a nation that has high income inequality, which we are, my health is threatened because the health of the poor among me is worse. If we could shorten that gap, all of our health would improve. But we can't see that because the narrative in this country is, you know, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. You know, everyone has the same opportunities. We can all do this. I think this is a handout that we're just getting. It's the narrative that resonates over and over and over again. And until we become intentional about change, it won't change. When I was sitting at the Billy Graham retreat center, it's it's all unplugged, so there's no TVs, and I would sit on my lovely bed, and I would turn to reach for the remote control. I'm like, right. Yeah. There's no remote. I get out and I go sit on the porch for a while. I come back in and I look for the remote control. Renee, there's no TV in here. Habits. Start really assessing yourself for habits. Unnecessary habits. Just flip on the light when you come in. Well, the sun is shining into. Why is the light on? Because what this is about barrier removing and habit breaking, so that we can move not past race, but so that we can dwell in race, in love, in harmony, in celebration. You know, if you have somebody in your family that is like the first of something, like in my family, my sister-in-law is the first African-American neurosurgeon, pediatric neurosurgeon. We don't get offended by that. Like, she's so different. You know, we celebrate that. So if we can figure out a way to do that. And you know, and even for me, at my job, we have a fitness center. And so on Tuesdays, I try to do spin. Y'all encourage me as I walk out there. And so one of my staff people, who's just a phenomenal professional, but spin is, you know, it's after work. It's at 5:15. And I look back at this guy, and he's on his cycle, and he has these huge gauges in his ear. And he has this, like, big bull ring. And I just thought, oh, my God! I had all kinds of visceral, prejudicial, ugly thoughts about this man who, a day before in a meeting, I loved for his brilliance and his compassion. It starts with the house of God. Stop pretending. Quit your worship charades. Not one more meeting. The only way God will be pleased with the fact that we're meeting today is that we become doers, not just hearers. Please. My 3 African American sons are depending on you to do it. I need them to live so I can have grandkids sitting at my feet on my porch. They are threatened. Your sons are threatened. But I believe that there is enough righteous indignation swelling up in the nation. Dare I say, swelling up on the corner of St. Joe, what's this street? And MLK. Because 1 can set 1,000 to flight. 2 can set 10,000. We can do this.